What up, Unstoppables? We have a great episode today, but real quick, we want to invite you to make the most important investment of your life. It's not a secret. There's no smoke and mirrors. I'm not even trying to pull a fast one on you. I'm going to be pretty straightforward. The best investment you can make in your life is in yourself. And the best way to invest in yourself is by investing in your network, putting time and energy, surrounding yourself with the best. You are the average of those you surround yourself with. In that Restaurant Unstoppable network, I made it easy. Over the past 12 years and 1,200 plus episodes, I've been researching and talking to people and trying to figure out how do you become successful in the restaurant industry. And I've curated a network of tools, services, technologies, and individuals, experts that I would go to tomorrow if I'm opening a restaurant. And I'm bringing you to that network with live events, whether it be a workshop, a mentoring session, a power hour, or access to me twice a month where I just listen and steer you in the right direction, all happening at Restaurant Unstoppable Network. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live. You also get this amazing access to all the recordings, RU Network podcast, which includes bonus ad-free and early release content. It also gives you access to our Unstoppable bot. It is a custom AI agent that is fed with 1,200 plus transcripts, over 2,400 hours of transcripts plus bonus content, all cross-referenced with our database. This is a powerful AI tool that you also get access to as well. What are you waiting for? Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live and we'll see you there. This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest partner at Visconti's Hospitality Group, Dan Carr. My man, Dan, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, man. I know you're unstoppable. Your family's unstoppable, or your extended family is unstoppable. I've now met you at least 10 times, I want to say, over the years through Restaurant Systems Pro. You're a part of the Restaurant Systems Pro Elite Mastermind Group, where the best Restaurant Systems Pro operators come together to support each other. It's a truly beautiful thing what you guys do to help each other out. It's inspiring me to do the similar work in Restaurant Unstoppable Network, and it's just an honor to be a part of all this. And I can't wait to kind of share who you are, how you got to where you are today, man, you got so much wisdom, man. Just talking to you the past couple of days, I know this is going to be a great episode. I can't wait to dive into who you are and how you got to where you are today. But let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
In the restaurants, as we were growing, the thing that came to me that I really struggled with, we were trying to be fine dining. And we would go and, is put, the easiest way to say it is, don't blow people away. You have a special guest come in and you would have a chef or a server just want to just absolutely hit it out of the park. Well, what are you going to do tomorrow?
Yeah. You're making me think of a post I saw recently from David Chang, and it was like a really good looking burger, but it was very simple. It was on grilled bread and it had grilled onions, and it was very delicious looking, right? But it was simple. And you blow people away with hospitality and the relationship behind the food, right? What are you thinking as I'm saying this?
I'm actually thinking about the cuisine that when I met Candy, I wasn't, big into Italian, but over the first year that we were working together, I fell into, I'm a history buff, and history and Italian cooking is just they're the one and the same, and started diving into it and the reading and the research, and the simplicity is what kind of grasped me. And the 3 ingredient ideal of Italian cooking, 3 ingredients, and make a fourth flavor with it. So you've got your basil, you have your tomatoes, you have your olive oil. But when they're combined together in that mouthful and stuff, you have this 4th beautiful flavor. And that was always been how I look at the kitchens, and how, as we're in the Northwest, and taking Italian ingredients and only being Italian up here is next to impossible, of course. But so we take Northwest ingredients, but the Italian way of cooking,
I love
and
that.
the Italian, mantra of simplicity.
Yeah. What happens when you blow people away? Or you try. What happens when you try to blow people away?
You can succeed every time if you want to, except when you're going to run out of when everybody's got a benchmark.
Is it sustainable?
It's not sustainable.
Right.
Don't blow your customer away. Do everything. It's just top service. Right. Just perfect food every time, but always leave something there so next time they come in, they've got that they did it again.
Right. Consistency will blow them away subconsciously over time.
Yes.
They won't even know they're blown away, but they just will be so dependent and just like they know that they're going to have a good experience when they come to you. Blowing people away isn't sustainable with, to your point, the creativity. How are you going to sustain that? It isn't sustainable with your cost of goods. How much money are you spending to put fancy things on the menu? It isn't sustainable with labor. How are you going to get the people that can help you blow people away? They come with an expensive price tag. All these variables compound. So I think that's great advice. Great way to get this thing started. Before we share your story and talk about how you got here and to really figure out who Dan Carr is, help me understand where you are today. 5 concepts. How many full service concepts do you have?
We have 2 full-service Italian restaurants, the original one and then the one that we're sitting in here in Leavenworth.
And then you have 3 additional concepts.
Then we have the following one is the Fire and Ice, which is down in Wenatchee. It's a Neapolitan pizzeria with a gelato shop in it. We'll be there this afternoon. And then we have up here in Leavenworth, we have the Leavenworth Sausage Garden, which is kind of my brainchild on how it was put together, and that's it's a very special operation. It's kind of like a
counter service.
It's a counter service, quick serve. It's high quality. We make our own
10 menu items,
10 menu items, 10 beers.
Yeah,
but was designed for it to be just simplicity. The best you can get in a simple way, and we've had a wonderful, basic 12 years of running this restaurant where we've been, like 4.9.
Yeah, we'll unpackage it. I can't wait to get to the details.
That's my pride and joy.
Fire and Ice, full service.
Full is fast. Yes, it's
casual
full service.
Okay, so. Casual full service, and then that's 4. So is the 5th concept your commissary or
is our commissary catering company, Miller Street Catering, where we were able to put a commissary together to handle all of our restaurants in all the sauces and the consistency. In fact, there was a couple of restaurateurs that were in town that I haven't seen for 3 or 4 years that have retired and left, and they're back in town now. They were in last night before last. I was talking to them, and they've been coming in a couple nights a week and stuff, and they just love it. And the thing they told me that we always had incredible food. It's their favorite restaurant, but now they say it's their more favorite because of the consistency of everything they're getting. So your kitchen has really came up a level.
I love that.
Which, the food was always great, but now it's just the consistency matches.
Got it. So we have 3 full service operations, a fast casual operation, and your catering / commissary. With the 2 Viscontis, your Italian concepts, what is your average, percent profit on those operations?
They're running a little bit higher prime costs than the other operations and such, but we're right around about 12%.
Okay. And what is your prime cost?
Prime cost and stuff is about right at 60, 61.
Okay. And what about your Fire and Ice? Where are you with that?
Fire and Ice, that's down in the 53 to 55%
prime cost.
Yes.
Percent profit.
Yep.
What is your percent profit there?
Percent profit there and stuff is there because of the rent and such there and stuff. It runs about the same.
Okay. Right. And what about your fast casual, the beer garden or sausage garden?
That one is a little bit, a little bit better. It's we opened in 2011, and we've never had prime cost over 42 and a half. We've never had a prime cost below 40.
Wow.
It's
And
just.
what are you
year
doing
in,
with
year
3% profit there?
About double
Oh, wow.
the others.
So you're in like the high.
It's in the
Pushing
20s.
20s.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So all in with all of your operations, what would you say your total revenue is annual?
We'll be doing about taking the commissary up because we're selling to ourselves, and that does about $1 million a year in internal sales. We'll probably be we won't hit 11.
Okay.
But we're over, definitely we were over 10 last year. We'll be there this year.
You guys are doing good. And the other thing is just the legacy. You've been here for how long?
Mm-hmm. We opened, the original restaurant was opened by Candy in 1985.
Yeah.
And
40 years, I know, because I was born in 85. So, I mean, I think that is a testament to success more than anything else. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of cool things you guys are doing here, like vertical integration with some of your concepts. You had another concept that you recently sold, Cure. And there's more. Is there anything else that we should know of before we start sharing your story?
Not those are the business side of things. We grew, and it was almost organic because we had the first Italian restaurant. Then we were able to get into Leavenworth up here back in '99.
Yeah.
And in the building, because of the landlords decided they didn't want to be the people that talked us into coming into this Leavenworth. Didn't want to be landlords anymore, and we were able to purchase the building from them. And
beautiful
the basement of it had a brewery in it. It was opened up, and that became our meat company. We had opened a meat shop, Cured by Visconti's, which is we produced all of the Italian. I fell in love from going to Italy. Fell in love with salamis and prosciuttos, and all things cured, and became a very successful business. But that's the sausage garden grew organically out of that. The cured shop came out of the meat company. Yeah. And then the Fire and Ice, also the pizzeria where we made all of the meats for all of our restaurants up until we sold it this last February.
Yeah. I love this stuff. I love the vertical integration. Yeah. I love the slow and steady growth. I think a lot of, like, for example, this is your second Visconti's that we're sitting in. We're in Leavenworth right now. If you have not been to this part of the country, we're in Washington, make a trip to Leavenworth. It's a beautiful town. We're going to go down. We're heading south today. Check out what's the name of that town? Wenatchee. I haven't seen that town. I'm sure it's just as gorgeous. Yeah. And the point I'm trying to make here is how many seats are in this restaurant right here? The second location.
With the patio, the summer patios and stuff, we're about I think we maxed out at about 225.
Okay, I was going to guess about 200. I think people see restaurants like this Visconti's in Leavenworth, and they say, I'm going to open a restaurant and I want to open that. And they come out of the gates, brand new restaurateurs, millions of dollars invested, and they try to fill the seats on day one. And I don't think people realize that what you built, what you and Candy built, and what Don is carrying on, it takes generations. It doesn't happen overnight. You start small and you do an amazing job, and the opportunities come to you, and you get a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And this is a lifetime of what you built right here. And I think people try to go so big so soon out of the gates, and it's just it takes time to build people and reputation. It
does.
So I just want to point that out. So, okay, let's go back, man. Where does it make sense to start sharing your story?
With Visconti's, I mean, I'm a Midwest boy, born and raised in Minnesota, North Dakota. I came out west shortly after I was in college. I graduated and went to work for a consulting company. One of my customers was Country Kitchens.
What were you consulting?
It was management by objectives.
Okay.
And I was working, and they had the manager training program for Country Kitchens was located in Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay.
And that's where I was based, and I was training management by objectives, teaching goal setting. Back in the early 70s, that was something that was new. But I fell in love with that, working with these guys, trying to understand what they were doing. I hung around, the bar rest. They were 24-hour restaurants, and I just became fascinated. And I quit a really good paying job.
What was your degree?
In just retail management,
Okay.
actually.
So
and
you're in
business.
your early 20s. You get hired to this consulting firm. You start becoming fascinated with the world of restaurants. When did you think that someday I might want to own a restaurant? When did that come onto your radar? Later?
Well, the ownership part came later, but it wasn't long after I did the switch and started working, graveyard shift and cleaning bathrooms and washing dishes in the management training program. But I came across something. No matter how bad a day I was having, I could walk out onto that floor and walk up and ask, a table. And this was when I was being taught how to be a server because I'd never done it before, and these people just went off on how great everything was. And my bad day just went away. It was that gratification and stuff of these, that was when that was kind of like, I'd love to know who that guy was because he was really super and he had his family with him. But that was a spot in my life that just changed me.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that hospitality is a two-way street. When we think of hospitality, we think of us giving hospitality to guests. But I think at the core of hospitality, what is hospitality? It's seeing people and valuing people. But when you see and value people, there's an instant reciprocation. Mm-hmm. And you're seen and valued in that moment. And that is also, I think, warmth, generosity, conviviality. That is all hospitality. And I think that's what we fall, that's the dopamine hit that we get hooked on, right?
Oh, it is.
Oh, yeah. So this happened. So you were serving tables while you're consulting?
No, this was after I just left consulting.
Okay.
And I was into the restaurant program. You had to learn every position.
Got it.
You had to go through all of the steps. And once you got that, then they started teaching you the management part.
Okay. So you were 27 when you opened your first restaurant.
Right. And that would have been, in January 1 of 1980.
Okay. So how long were you consulting before you left consulting to start working in restaurants?
Oh, I was, that would have been in 74.
Okay.
When I graduated from school, January of 74. I went to, so it was October of 74.
Okay. When did you stop doing the consulting? October of 74?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I think there's got to be lessons. I want to get a nugget or two out of you. Management by objectives. Yes. That's a huge lesson right there. I mean, that is EOS, right? Identifying objectives and then creating a scorecard to manage your progress on those objectives and communicating to your team where these are our objectives. Like, get into the biggest lessons you've learned about how to manage by objective.
The biggest thing that I learned in it was kind of funny because I was so into that when I went with the restaurants and stuff. It was almost like a burnout where it's, okay, I've heard about this too often. But immediately after I got out into the field, and it changed how I was able to organize myself every day. And when getting up, and not so much in a classical write it down organized way, but it changed how I thought. Up until that time and stuff, you get up, well, what are you going to do today? I don't know, but it's, we'll find something fun to do. I was that type of a person. And it was very methodical and I really feel that going through that and working with that consulting company for those 6-9 months is what really made me move through the management program very fast. Okay. And I was able to, people look to me as that, okay, what are we doing next? They go, wait a minute, I'm training with you. Why are you asking me?
Okay. So you learned how to, the power of consistency, doing the hard things, the boring things, the repetitive things that gave you that discipline working with this management company. So when you left, the management came easy to you because that's what you had been doing for 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
So, but that's how it shaped and formed you and influenced you as a professional. Can you give us any nuggets on how to manage by objective though? Like what did that look like? How were you helping your clients? Like what were your clients struggling with and how did you help them?
Well, you have to set, it's almost a little bit like, just personal goal setting is that you want to we would teach I remember we would teach in the first steps is write it down. What do you want? What do you want out of life? Just write it down. I don't care how crazy it is.
Vision.
It's just think, what would, if you were to, these are the 5 things that you want done and stuff, in the next 5 years and stuff. And crazy as they are, whether you think you can do them or not, that doesn't matter. What were the coolest things that you could do to make you to really be happy for? Okay, now, all right, we've got that. Now, to do that, what are the two biggest things that are stopping you from doing it? What are the 2 things that'd be the easiest for you to do to go after each one of those? And then, all right, now then break those down. And it's a tree.
Yeah.
And it's just, you've got the objective, then you just start breaking it down in 3s. And when you're done, then you go through and you will build when you get down to, you have 10 across the bottom, those 10 are put on a list, and then you prioritize what you got to do first. Well, I can't do that until I do this. You got your priority list. You have your 10 goals. Now you finish those 10, the whole tree's done.
Yeah.
And in the restaurants, when we would set it up and I was showing them how to do a budget. Okay, you need to get your labor in line. And how do you do that? Okay, you got your kitchen, and you got your back of house, you got your front of house. Now you got your servers, you got your bussers, you got your part-time, you got your full-time, and going through. Okay, all right, you got these people, but they're not trained. That goes in. Pretty soon you've got your 10 for front of house, you got your 10 goals for back of house for you and your restaurant now to get your labor in line and train your staff.
Right. Restaurant owners, what if I told you there was a way to lower your prime cost by $1,000 and get paid $1,000 on top of that? If it sounds too good to be true, it's not. Restaurant Systems Pro is offering that deal right now to 10 of my lucky listeners. Listen closely. Join the Restaurant Systems Pro 30-day prime cost challenge, and if you successfully improve your prime cost by $1,000 or more compared to the same 30 days the year prior, they will pay you $1,000. Find the link in the show notes titled Restaurant Systems Pro 30-Day Prime Cost Challenge. Click that link and get signed up today. Only 10 people are going to get approved into this program. Get on it. Yeah, I think the core of this is you have to be on purpose, as Rudy Mick would say, one of our restaurant network experts, restaurant unstoppable industry experts. You got to be on purpose, but to be on purpose, you have to take the time to set objectives, to set goals, to paint the picture of what your ideal future looks like. And then you start saying, what do I have to do to make that happen? What are the behaviors, the routines, the rituals, what is the scorecard, the numbers associated to hit those goals, so you can start tracking and knowing that you're moving in the right direction, right? But I think the first thing, the number one thing is just write it down and come back to it. So that's your center line. So you're going to drift, you're going to get distracted, but you have to be able to say, no, that is not where I want to go. That is not what we said who we are going to be in 10 years from now, right? Those are huge lessons. So you're doing this, you get this amazing foundation right out of college of how to achieve things, right? How to achieve objectives. And then you start saying, I want to work in restaurants. And you left management. That job probably had a brighter future for you. Many may have thought, right?
It was 4 years before I made the money I was making coming out of college that in the restaurants. It was 4 years before I started making the same money. But I left a 40 to 50 hour work week with a very good pay to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week training program. 72 hours a week was my schedule for the first 4 months with that, in restaurants. And I was never as happy as I was when I went to the restaurants. I could never go back to the consulting.
Yeah. What was it that was it being seen, that instant gratification that did it for you?
No, it was that instant gratification, being able to talk to people when you had a good day, you could just see it.
Yeah.
When your staff, when everything went right. When you're all your costs and stuff for the week, you made your labor goals, and you get, the training manager to call you out, and, you get your high five in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
It was just, you could win. It was a little bit more. They had a very, their trainers and stuff had a very coaching way of almost like being on a sports team.
Okay.
Where they would, where you got individuals were, one. It wasn't just like, you got to learn all this stuff and then we're going to throw you out of here. John was the gentleman's name, was very good at just working with everybody, and you felt like you were identified in that training.
Yeah, that's super powerful. So how many years were you working in restaurants before you opened your first?
I opened my first restaurant. I came out west with that restaurant group. That's how I found Washington State. I went back to North Dakota, and I was there. I got there in November. I made it through a winter. I made it through the next summer. In the middle of next winter, I looked at my wife at the time, and I said, I can't do this again. We got to go back. I can't live here in the Midwest. And it wasn't the winters. It was the humidity and the bugs in the summer. Because I found that when you out here, we don't have that.
Yeah, it's so dry. Yeah.
And there was a different, I love it back there. It's a great place to grow up and everything, but just everything about Washington, it's a
beautiful state.
It's a beautiful area. And so when I got out here, I found a restaurant south of Spokane, about an hour. And it was just a little place. It was 28 seats, and just started on a shoehorn, and it was almost like a mini country kitchen.
Okay. So you go to Spokane, 28 seats. Where is that relative to here? Is that nearby?
No, Spokane is about 2.5 hours east. Colfax is like 10 miles from the Idaho border.
Okay,
down right by Washington State University, Pullman.
So,
Farmer's Restaurant.
So, what year was this?
1980, January of 80.
So, 1980, you had a 5-year run?
No, I was there for 11 years.
Oh, 11 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So 11 years. What were the biggest challenges for you getting open?
Well, getting open was, not to go into details, but the guy that sold it to us, we come to find out, and I had a partner for the first 6 months in that tiny little restaurant. We were working together in a big supper club up in Leavenworth, or in Spokane, excuse me. And Frank and I went down, we opened up, and we were there for 2 weeks, and we found out that we were the fourth people to buy this in 5 years.
Ooh, that's scary.
In January.
After you bought it, you found out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody that was just like us, we borrowed money from friends and neighbors to come up with enough.
How much did you have to come up with?
Oh, it was only about, the whole total would have been about, $10,000 to be able to have cash again, but he wouldn't have sold it to us. What he would do is he'd find somebody and stuff that could barely scrape up enough money to buy the receivables, because it was a farmer restaurant. The major business was the farmers and their hired hands.
Okay.
And they did receivables, and you collect your money at the beginning of each month for the last month. And anyway, and then you inventory. And he let us in tell you what, you buy the receivables and buy the inventory. You don't have to pay me the down payment for 60 days.
So he's selling you the cost of goods, his goods.
His goods.
Got it.
His
so he's making money on the goods.
So he's got his receipt. It was a hell of a deal.
That is a hell of a deal.
And it was every penny that we had to do that. I mean, we basically started with like $25 of cash between the two of us to open the till the first day. We got it up. We were going. And when we found this out, he had sold us because this was the slowest time of year.
Okay.
It was if the place did $1,000 a week, then it would do $5,000 a week in the summertime. Okay. I mean, you were starving to death.
Okay.
And he set it up and stuff where you would go through those 3 really bad months, and at the end of those 3 months, on the 90th day, you had to have the full down payment. And none of these other people were able to do it. We did. We were able to starve through it and give him the down payment, and then make it. But we were afraid that we had just been built.
Yeah. So was this the arrangement for a full 10 years?
No. Once we got to the 6 month, we realized and stuff, things were going good, and okay, we're making a living, but we could see that this wasn't going to be sustainable. During this busy summer months, both of us could have an income.
Right.
But when winter come again, there's, one of us is going to starve to death. So we went, we decided to, there was another building in town and stuff that, and Frank Polito, he was, Hispanic, born in the States, but he's, decided it could use a Mexican restaurant here. We went to the bank and they couldn't borrow us the money because we were just new. We didn't have any asset. I mean, it was just, the bank couldn't do it. But he says, but I could borrow one of you. I could borrow Frank enough money, or Dan enough money so that he could buy you out and you could take your money then, on payments, he'd be paying you, but that way we get enough for you to open up down here. And, so the banker was the one that helped us. Okay. And so I bought Frank out and then continued on. The first full year of business in 1980 was $89,000 for the year. And in 1988 and 1989, the last 2 full years I was open, did over $1 million a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
you went from 89,000 to over $1 million?
Yes.
Wow.
And there was a gas station, 2-bay gas
28
station.
28 seats?
28 seat. Well, there was a gas station with 2 bays and a shop, kind of a shop behind it. In the same building. We were in a triangle of a highway where you go to Spokane, towards Seattle, or to Pullman, where WSU, Washington State University was. We were right in the triangle there. And I ended up coming up with a deal where I took over the gas station. And then the landlord, I made a deal to buy the property, and that was in 85. My brother came in and became a partner with me at that time and we remodeled it.
32 years old, 33 years old at this point?
Well, let's see.
27 when you started? Or?
I'm trying to think. 85, I'd have been, about 32. Okay. Yeah. And
your brother comes in?
My brother comes in. We shut the gas station down. We keep pumping, but we close the bays. We go in and remodel. We made it into a 60-seat restaurant with a mini mart and self-serve gas instead of full-serve gas, and it allowed us to have a bigger kitchen. And we went 24 hours.
Wow.
And it ended up it took off.
Okay.
And
what would you say your biggest challenge was with this first restaurant? And you had it for 5 years or 10 years.
Not having a clue. I worked for a restaurant chain. I worked for a big dinner,
Are you allowed
to
say what the chain was?
What?
Are you allowed to say what the chain was?
Oh, yeah. The chain was Country Kitchens.
Okay.
The Country Kitchens of the Dakotas was the actual franchise group. And they were very successful. And in fact, there's still a ton of them back in the Midwest.
Okay. So you came from that and you were doing this, and you were saying your biggest challenge was
I knew how to do what they taught us, but I didn't know, doing the inventory and everything, that was easy and stuff. Okay, but how do you get back? I need to do it differently. This isn't working for me. And I came across menuing. Okay, I knew nothing about menuing on how to run that 32%. I could run the 32% because somebody says, okay, this is designed for 32%. If you do these products, you're going, and you run it efficiently, you're going to make it. Not a problem, because somebody had already put the system together.
Yeah, no 2 restaurants are exactly the same. So that's what worked for Country Kitchen, not necessarily for your concept and your unique
And this
vision.
is where I learned when I eventually found, Smart Systems Pro, their predecessor Restaurant Systems Pro, is I had to have a system. And I was always searching for that one that was put together for me. And I came across a book. I cannot remember the author's name. He was Washington State University has an incredible hospitality program for hotel, motel, and restaurants. Not a culinary program, but a hospitality. And there was a gentleman there that wrote a book.
What was the book called? Do you know the name of the book?
It was Costing for Restaurants. And this would have been published back in the late 70s, early 80s. It's the first place I ever read where you can control your menu pricing and your food costs by putting things in different places on your menu. It's the first time I'd ever heard anything about that. It was a fascinating book. but I was able to, and then he showed, problems where he taught me gross profit. It was more important than cost. What you sell it for and what your gross profit is way more important than what you paid for it, because gross profit goes to the bank. Cost goes out of your bank.
Right. So I think a lot of times when people are costing their menu, the way they cost it is they say, what is the restaurant down the street selling it? And that's what they focus on, is they want to be competitive on cost. Mm-hmm. But they don't, if you got to reverse engineer it to make sure that cost makes you profitable. You have to be profit. Without profit, what's the point? Yeah.
And he's the one that showed me there. You set up what do you need to make a living. He had a very, very good program in it. What do you need to make a living? You say, do you need, back in those days, $2,000 clear a month to pay your bills at home? Put that out there. Okay, you set that in first. It's the very first thing you do. Then you go look at, here's the volume I'm doing. Here's what my costs are. And these are all my expensive, and the two, okay, how much volume are you missing? It was all about sales. It was about sales and gross profit.
Start with the end in mind. What's the objective? Yeah, right? Back to what you're managing objectives.
So different than everything. Everything else was just cut your costs, send the people home. Just cheap. Buy a cheaper ham. Buy a cheaper potatoes. Whatever you could do. That's the way I was taught up until that time. And all of a sudden, and that's when things really started changing for me.
Yeah. He was teaching you profit first, which is what we teach at Restaurant Unstoppable, the profit first mindset. And I think the only difference between what I'm hearing from you is profit shouldn't be what you take home to pay your bills. Profit should be what you take to put in the bank in a high yield savings account, or what you put to pay off debt. But you only buy assets or pay off debt with profit. You should also have owner's pay.
Exactly.
And owner's pay is what you use to cover your liabilities, your monthly liabilities, right?
Right.
So I think that's the main difference between what you just shared and what Profit First says. It's a little bit more like secure, right?
Yeah. See, up till that time, I was taught how to run a restaurant and make it profitable for somebody else.
Right.
I'm getting my paycheck, and they're going to get their profit if I hit these numbers. But I didn't know how. There wasn't anything out there that taught you how to find those numbers that you needed to meet. And when I came on my own, it was kind of feeling lost.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it turned around. It started working well for me. I did exceptionally well all the way through the 80s. In fact, I did too well for myself.
What do you mean by that?
Things became so good that I was so smart. And
I can't learn anything else.
I found buddies that had investments, and you invest in this and invest in that and everything. And your money's going to make money for you. And I'll do that.
I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, I'll do that. And I found out that I was unstoppable at being stupid. But I learned some valuable lessons there, and eventually and stuff, I ended up stepping away from the restaurant, and it also caused personal. I went through a divorce.
Yeah, you had a wife.
That's how I ended up going to work for one of the big food companies and sold groceries for 2 years.
Would you say this was a low part of your life?
Oh, it very much was. I had to declare bankruptcy.
Take me to your emotional state.
The emotional state was. It wasn't like a lot of guys saying about how bad it was. It was a lot of dark days. There was 6 months that I didn't have a place. I mean, I was basically staying with friends until I found the job and moved over here. But my main concern was I had 2 wonderful daughters, and making sure that they were taken care of, and that my responsibilities and stuff. Yes, I'd gone through a divorce, but I still was responsible for, there was a house there and stuff that needed to be taken care of. I was just busy taking care of that. That was that time, that was my goal, was getting myself situated so that way other people didn't have to suffer in their lives for my mistakes. And I'm not a martyr. Don't take me wrong. It's just that was very important to me because I'd made promises to them, and those business partners and everything, business goes, all right, well, I did my best. But your family, they believe in you. You got to give them what you told them that, Anyway, that's getting a little off the restaurant side.
Well, I mean, it's all connected.
It's part of me.
It's all connected. And behind every great restaurant's a great person. So it's your story. The restaurants they aren't you. It's just the things you did, right? So if you could go back in time, the wise man you are today, and give one piece of advice to that younger version of yourself, what would that advice be?
The advice that you were talking about when I was talking about profit and stuff, and you were saying, well, it's not just profit that you got money to take home, make enough money to give you a paycheck, is you have to calculate your paycheck, and you have to calculate that profit. You have to calculate that money being set aside. Yes, you got mortgages to pay in your business, and all your bills are paid for the month. Okay, the rest of it comes home. No, it doesn't, because that's what I did. If I would have been a little more organized in controlling of, okay, this is my money that I'm giving this guy $20,000. I'm giving this guy $40,000. If I would have been looking at it from a standpoint of return on investment, security in the future, I just thought everything was just going to keep blowing up and ballooning. And I learned very hard there that, that it's, it goes faster than it comes in.
Yeah.
And but that security of, you have to, there's more to just having enough money so you can do what you want to do.
Got it. So you go to work for Cisco.
Yep.
How long were you doing that?
I was with them for about 2 years.
Okay. And what year did you start working with them?
Let's see, that would have been in October of 91.
October of 91. You're with them for 2 years, 1993. And this is how you discover your now partner.
Yes, we met through that. In fact, they were my first actual customer that was signed up was the Visconti's restaurant in Wenatchee, Washington.
Okay, so this is also around the time. So if let's pay homage to Candy. They start Visconti's in 1985.
Yep.
So at this point, you don't cross paths with her until 1992.
Yeah.
So they're 7 years in business. So what was Visconti's in that 7 years before you came on scene?
They were a small. Mark and Candy, Mark, her ex, hardworking restaurant people. They were working and running a small, store and restaurant down in Crescent Bar, which is down on the Columbia River, about 30 minutes south of Wenatchee. And they were driving through Wenatchee, and the Northwoods Inn had a sign up there that it was for sale, and it just hit them right on the right night, and they started looking at it, figured it out, and they bought it. And a little bit like I did when you talk to Candy, it's she packed pears all day long and and worked in the restaurant at night. And Mark worked in the restaurant, through the night, and then he would work at Blue Ribbon Meats and stuff, doing cleanup. They started from scratch, and they built it from scratch.
I love that.
And I met Mark first, and we did some golfing, and got along really well. And I've always considered him a friend. And in fact, he even worked with us when Don came back in 2013. He worked with us for a number of years, helping out in between the cruise ships that he was working on.
So he was a chef?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Mark was a chef. Yeah,
got it.
And very good chef.
And what was Candy's role in this?
Candy was front of house.
Got it.
And the two of them, and I can't go into a huge amount of detail about how things went for them, but they were very successful. They brought Italian to town, to Wenatchee, and
in 1985.
And when when they went through their separation and everything and stuff. That's that's when I really met Candy, was at that time and stuff, because I was selling to the restaurant, and Candy was the person that the courts had. Okay, you run the restaurant till we get this all settled out.
Okay. So at this point, Candy and her husband are no longer business partners and life partners. They had gone their own way. Yeah. And you had established a friendship with her that became more.
Yeah. It just, and the restaurant side that I was helping her just as a friend. That was the problem with me in restaurant. I wasn't a fantastic volume salesman, but damn, my customers love me.
I mean, that long-term relationship, lifetime value.
I took every one of their problems home with me, just like it was mine.
Yeah, it could be a good thing and a bad thing sometimes.
It really was. I would say that I worked in a kitchen or in a bar for at least 30% of my customers while I was selling over those 3 years.
You did it for 10 years. You didn't just empathize, you sympathized. It.
And so it was, but it was good. And as I was getting into the Italian restaurant, Candy needed help in the kitchen, and was my strength that I'd always fall into. I love front of house, but the kitchen was where my fascination was, learning, because I grew up in North Dakota on a family farm where you didn't learn to cook. Any cooking you learned to do was your camp cooking when you guys were going out hunting or fishing and such. So learning to cooking was fascinating. It's something I really didn't, it was just taken for granted. And with Italian cooking and with all the literature that was out there for, during this time, this was been in the early 90s. It just lit a fire in me. And then plus with the restaurant and Candy having enough faith in me when I first started helping out to, give me that latitude to try new things, bring new menu items in. And it was just a great working relationship.
Got it. So, you start working, you start dating Candy. Yeah. You also start working with Candy. You're also at this time conveniently looking for work. So you join Visconti's. What year was that when you joined Visconti's?
That'd have been end of 93, if I remember right.
Okay. Around that time.
Yeah.
So I have a little timeline with me. In 1996, the Wenatchee location gets a wood-fired oven. 1999, you opened the Leavenworth location. In 2002, the Leavenworth location was remodeled after the brewery sold. And these seem like key milestones. 2011, you guys converted the small parking lot into a year-round sausage garden. And in 2013, along with the opening of Pybus Public Market, Pybus Public Market, you launched Fire and
Ice.
And those are the big timeline things I have in front of me right now. So we're at 15 minutes into this thing, man. We got a lot to unpackage. This is like where the magic starts, for you guys.
Well, as you're going through, there's a couple of additional things that we did. Was we opened in 99.
Okay.
And it was really fantastic. We always pick crazy days and stuff to open. We opened up on a Friday night during a festival weekend, and 15 minutes after we opened, we found out we opened at that time. This seated 160 people. We opened without any salt and pepper shakers.
Oh man,
we found that out after we were open.
Yeah.
But, just little things like those are the memories that you have of but it was you
dot every I, you cross every T, and there's always the period that you forget.
Yeah.
There's one thing that at the very end that you're like, oh crap. 7 years from 92, 93, basically to 99, around ballpark 7-6 years. You guys are working together. You're scaling a Visconti's original location. This is the second location that you guys open. How is your business partnership growing and evolving at this time?
Well, it starts back right when we first started working together. I mean, Wenatchee and stuff was, Candy was fascinating me. She was one of the hardest working people and the most gregarious in the front dining room. People in town love Candy. In fact, we just this last summer, they had a surprise event for Candy and stuff for her 45 years in the restaurant business, and it was all of her old regular customers. And it was 2 hours of people getting up and telling the times of meeting Candy and working with Candy. And it was really special.
That is special.
But, Candy and I, when we first started, she was the front of the house and she knew really, but she didn't have the skills. Mark was the back of the house. And I was able to come in, and as I was learning the culture of, the Italian culinary and stuff, we had a good base menu to start with. There's some, there's I think every item that was on that menu now can be still served in any one of our restaurants by someone just coming in asking for a frizzled spinach, which is prosciutto, spinach, and spaghetti on an olive oil base. And it's still one of the best dishes that we serve, even though it's not on the menu. As I was learning and Candy was learning, we were looking at ways we needed volume, because we went from just below $400,000 in her first year that I was working with her a year to the 10 plus that we're doing now. It was a growth, but we were trying to figure out how to increase seating. We didn't have a budget, money available for a budget for advertising, and we were trying to figure out how to do it. And we were looking, how are you going to bring in more people and stuff? You can't advertise, everybody already eats at Visconti. Says, wait a minute, we seat 60 people. And this is when, Candy and I, we seat 60 people, and there's 60,000 people in East Wenatchee and Wenatchee, let alone around us. Okay, that means if you divide 60 into 60,000, every 1,000 days, everybody eats here once. And we know we have a ton of people that eat here 3, 4, 5 times a week. So there's a lot of people out there that aren't coming to Visconti's.
Yeah, 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your guests, right?
Yes. And so we said, okay, now, so if we want, we're averaging, we were averaging about 60 customers a day, about one turn. Now, if we could get 10% increase, this is what the volume would do.
That's
we realized that's only 6 people a day.
Wow.
And when we put it back down to there, we kind of looked at each other and, that shouldn't be that hard to do.
Right.
But we made a decision, because Candy was the hostess. There was 1 or maybe 2 servers on the weekends and 1 busser. And it was slam dining when we got filled up. And so the first thing that we did was we got Candy a hostess on the weekends so that Candy could be the host of the restaurant and someone else was doing the seating. And then she could help the bussers or a server if they were busy. And that was really eye-opening for us. Then and by the end of the first year that we were working together, Candy was 7 days a week. There was 2 servers on and 2 bussers and a host every day, and so that way, the money that we spent on the additional labor, we attributed to advertising, because we felt that, give them hospitality rather than print it.
Right. And really what that was is just freeing Candy up to be able to see people.
To be what Candy was really great at. And that's where she shines.
Yeah. And I think we forget that this is what hospitality is all about. And, it's weird. There's a balance right now. A lot of the narrative you hear in the publications that target the 10 to 30 unit operators, everyone wants to scale to 100 locations. And we're losing that relationship.
Yes.
We forget that this industry was built on literally the third place, the place between home and work, where you go to be with people, to be a part of a community, to congregate, to talk, to feel seen and loved. And I think that we get so focused on scale and profit and selling to investors, or going public, or we lose sight of what matters. And I don't know if you're that far removed from the Candies of the world, meaning if what makes your restaurant, what made your original restaurant so special, is that person who has the hospitality. Can you scale that person, that level of give and F about the actual relationship with the people in that community?
Yes.
Can you scale it
No,
to 100
you can't.
locations?
No, you can't. Candy and I have learned that and stuff. In fact, that was probably one of the biggest angst Candy and I have had as we've grown.
Yeah.
Is when you got a meat, when we opened up Cured, the meat company, I got pulled out of the restaurants quite a bit more. And, Dawn was here and was able to step in and, take up, a lot of, not that she needed to cover for me and stuff, but she was able to, we needed 3 people.
Yeah.
And she fit very well. But yeah, it was walking into the Wenatchee restaurant when you were only there maybe an afternoon, maybe 2 evenings a week, and you're up here for 3 or 4, but you're working 40 hours, in the meat company where you're not out in the public outside of maybe doing sales. You start missing. I remember getting anxieties and stuff because regular customers that we would do like fruit brokers, which is a huge industry here for us. And they'd have people from all over the world coming in, and that's what we specialized was their family style meals in the Wenatchee restaurant. That's where a lot of business that we built around that. Well, I wasn't there making sure that they were getting the food the way they'd always gotten it. And I was just scared that, hey, but at the same time, that's what also taught us how to step away and train our managers and our people, key people to be able to give that hospitality in our place.
Yeah, you can bring up other people who have that give and F mindset and who have the inclination towards it. It doesn't all have to be one person, but as you scale, I think you dilute that original special something.
You do.
And this is you're talking this whole branch of our communication or this conversation today started with we needed to find ways to market, and what you said is we don't have to spend money on advertisement. We have to spend more time where it matters, and that's on relationships. That's 4 walls marketing.
Exactly. And that's where we actually, for a couple months, put that labor into advertising. We didn't put it in the labor cost.
Exactly. Better experiences equals advertising. Yeah. Like execution is word of mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
And, but when we were in Wenatchee, after in 96, when you mentioned the wood-fired oven, and that was one of the biggest revolutions for Candy and I would say, because up to that point we were a pasta restaurant. We had no ovens, we had no we had 6 burners and a grill top and a French fryer.
Great margins in pasta restaurants.
Oh,
Flour,
there really
water.
was. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. We were beer and wine, but we came across a wood-fired oven, but it never became a pizza oven. By the time we got the thing in, and for any research, and back in the early 90s, there was no loads of books out there about wood-fired ovens or cooking with wood-fired ovens.
Which is funny because that's how it all started.
Outside of cooking pizza.
Yeah.
And what I was able to find was a couple of books about one of them was based on a guy's research in Apulia, where blackening meat was the way it was stored and wrapped with spices and everything, and it'd be wrapped in oilskin linens and then hung in their cellars. And you'd open it up and cut a piece off, and to cook that, you take it down to the local ovens, and because people couldn't afford shared ovens, and get down there and stuff. And
the community oven, back to the idea of the restaurant industry community.
They had metal plates that were in the wood-fired ovens. They'd take that meat, and it would, with those herbs that they'd been preserved in, would be blackened onto it. And anyway, it was just those are the type of history things that I found and was able to start gleaning. But I found a couple of books of a guy, how he grew up and how they used wood-fired ovens in northern Italy, and how they christened the ovens and everything. So when we opened up the week before we opened, we had 3 pallets of old produce from our food supplier. Each day they brought us a new pallet, and we were burning anything, cabbage, carrots, everything that they're just chopping it up, putting it with olive oil and then throwing it in the wood-fired oven. We were christening our oven.
Yeah.
Paper came down. And it was a fantastic kick up. But we were the first wood-fired oven in Central Washington. There was nothing outside of Seattle.
Yeah, and that's a unique selling proposition.
It was back in '96.
Yeah. Restaurant owners, what if I told you there was a way to lower your prime cost by $1,000 month over month and get paid $1,000? That sounds like a deal too good to be true, but that's exactly the deal that Restaurant Systems Pro is offering 10 of my lucky listeners. So why are they doing this? Because they consistently help their clients get between 15 and 25% profit in their business. And when they approach new clients and say, I can do the same thing for you, they get met with a lot of resistance. And because it sounds too good to be true, most restaurants think if you do between 5 and 10%, you're doing good. So to hit 15 or 25%, like what do we have to sacrifice? What scam are you throwing at me, sir? No, thank you. But the truth is they really do help people hit these numbers. And the way they do it is by having all the most important systems that are tied to profitability fully integrated into an enterprise solution. I'm talking like accounting, inventory, scheduling, checklists, training systems, general ledger, balance sheets, costing cards. And when you have all those systems dialed in, ironclad, tied, connected, fully integrated in an enterprise solution, you get data. And when you have data, you can make little tweaks here and there. And those little tweaks, you can see the fruits of your labor, the effects of your efforts. And that's how you hit 15 and 25% profit. And on top of all this, they also have support, which is unheard of in today's age. So you get all these things compounded that help you hit that 15 to 25%. And if I have your attention, keep listening. Join the Restaurant Systems Pro 30-day prime cost challenge. And if you successfully improve your prime cost by $1,000 or more compared to the same 30-day period last year, they will pay you $1,000. If you're listening on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, find the show notes and we will have a link titled Restaurant Systems Pro 30-day prime cost challenge. Click that link and get signed up today. Only 10 spots, guys. Do not wait. Get your spot, lower your prime costs by $1,000 and get paid that $1,000. They're actually calling this a reverse guarantee. Get on it. I really want to make sure we get to where we are today in your story, right? And not that I'm not loving this conversation, but like thinking about where you are in the timeline, 1996 is where we are when you got the wood-fired oven. You're still at one location. Reflecting back in chronological order, and maybe if you just want to give me a list of talking points of the things that you think you needed to lay out that were like the most significant points of evolution, roadblocks in your growth that you had to overcome to get to where you are today, or points of evolution of how you changed the way you do things to be better. Like what were the I like to think of like shifting through gears. Right now, you guys are in like second gear, right? You're both seasoned restaurateurs. You figured a lot out. You know how to do menu engineering. You know how to be profitable. You know how to do costing. What was third gear? What was fourth gear? If you're in fifth gear now, what were those points? The third, or in the fourth, in the fifth to where you are now. Like what were those big things?
If you were to talk about, first gear was we got up. Finding the wood-fired oven and putting it in and teaching ourselves how to make racks for the oven where we'd pull the hot red coals over and put a steak on a red hot cast iron rack right in the wood-fired oven in cooking. That gave us a whole new profile of food. Okay. And in very Italian, very old world style of cooking. And we became, had a big write-up the first year. We're the only prime grade steakhouse between the mountains and the eastern border of Washington State. So it was, and none of this was planned. This was all just as we just knew things. We just kept, Candy and I would just
kept growing, evolving, getting better.
It was a constant growth. And then Leavenworth wasn't a plan. Leavenworth was an opportunity brought to us.
Yes. Okay.
We had some friends that were going to wanted to buy this building and they were going to help Leavenworth Brewery come out of its bankruptcy by helping them out. But the only way they would do it, and they were some of our best customers, is they came to us and they says, we want to buy the Leavenworth Brewery. and the property up there and stuff. But the only way we're going to do it is if you promise to come and take the restaurant.
Okay. So at this point, did you and Candy have the conversation of where do we want to be in 10 years? Where do we want to be in 30 years when we're ready to retire? Do you have that vision for yourself?
No.
Okay.
At this time and stuff, Candy and I were just, things were going good. We're just like anybody else. We hadn't figured out we weren't running the prime costs we should or anything, but we were making money and we were growing. And then all of a sudden this opportunity came along, and it was one that we could afford because they basically bought us to come. I mean, they helped us get into here. We did the remodel of the building. It became successful. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
But things were good. And along comes,
yeah.
You mentioned
pull that mic closer. We got a wine delivery coming in right now, which is fine. We're in a restaurant, but to see the base of that mic, pull it right to the edge of the table there. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Keep going.
So, let's see where we're, in 02, we had the building. In 02 and 01, they decided to sell the building to us because they decided being landlords wasn't something that they were good at. And the Leavenworth Brewery had become they made the beer and sold it to us. We were their brew pub, but they outgrew the facility in the basement, and, they had to find bigger facility. So they merged with the company over in Seattle and moved out of the building. We bought the building from the group.
Got it.
And so that's how we start. That was our start. But to do that, where the brew place was, when it just became legal for tasting rooms for wine in the state of Washington. And we had 5 new wineries within 5 miles of town that had no tasting rooms. So we were able to bring their wines in, and we started a wine shop with tastings. We became the tasting room for Leavenworth.
Is this where Cured moved into eventually?
No, it's where the sandwich shop is now.
Okay, got it. So a couple things I just want to point out. So I think a lot of times when people think about scale and growth, they think out. You think of a tree growing out, right? Scale and growth doesn't come from going out. It comes from going in. The roots grow much bigger before the tree grows.
Yeah.
And that's because the roots are bringing in nutrients. It's getting stronger. They're getting better, right? And that's what you got to think about. You and your restaurant, you will attract on growth. If you put all the energy and the resources into what you're already doing better, you get that foundation, your roots get strong, relationships, systems, processes, clarity on who we are and what we do, what we say yes to, what we say no to.
Well, the
that
clarity
brings growth. Growth comes to you.
When you say clarity, that's the thing that once we put the wine in, which was something that we'd been growing. In fact, I think it was 2002 when I was won the state award by the Washington Grape Growers Association as the winemaker's friend of the year. It's the person that's most influential to the Washington State wine industry, in the restaurant industry. That was kind of like the first state award that we ever won. But what it was because with the wine shop, we were able to get out and we became instant friends with every damn winery in the state when there wasn't even 100 wineries in the state of Washington, at that time. And our wine list and wine program grew here. We had our own wine shop down there. At that time, we had California, European. And after the second year of the wine shop, we made the decision that we were going to be Washington and Italian and of course, Oregon, Northwest wines, Italian wines, and that was it. And we sold everything off. No more California. And everybody thought we were crazy.
Yeah. Candy. Sorry, go ahead.
But the big thing that I knew would work was I can teach 20 servers all about Italian wines, but I can't teach them about French and Australian and German.
Much.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was impossible.
Candy, Blaine and yourself were just talking about this last night where you have reps that come with this book that is an encyclopedia, and you're supposed to thumb through all of that and pick. It's the same theory applies with your menu. You go out to eat and you sit at some of these restaurants and there's literally 50 to 60 things to choose from. It's overwhelming. You need clarity. Like, what are our greatest hits? What is our focus? What is the one thing we want to be better than anybody else at, and put all of our energy into doing that thing? Systems, processes, training, everything gets streamlined. Everything gets smoother. Clarity. And you think about adding things to like a bucket of water or a glass of water. If you start putting a bunch of stuff in there, it gets foggy. But if you just have one thing, that you drop in there, it's clear. Like it's that was maybe a little bit of a reach of an analogy. But
well, no, it is, because what happened with the wine shop, and after 2 years of having the wine shop, and every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, one of those wineries would be featured each day. And then there was 6 wineries, then there was 8 wineries, then there was 10 wineries. I mean, they were just popping up. And all of a sudden and stuff, there was a tasting room, another tasting room, another tasting room. And at the end of about 2.5 years, we realized that, okay, this isn't sustainable. We have an Italian wine shop in a German town that sells local wines. Well, wait a minute, you can buy them everywhere now. And Italian wines, wait a minute, we're in a German town. And so it just wasn't a good fit. And the other thing that we had found from going to Italy, every time we go there, it was just this incredible, every day you eat and you have gelato. You have espresso and you have gelato. And so we felt that we removed, and there again, that was a little bit kind of organic. We're Italian, and this is something that we were missing. We put in Italian gelato. I went to school back in North Carolina and then over to Seattle for 2 weeks to learn how to make from scratch gelato. And it was fantastic.
Yeah. Again, another unique selling proposition.
Yes, and it was, but there again, it was organic. It came from within of who we were. We just put out another branch. Then a couple of years went by, and I was making this brewery was in this basement. The basement's is about 3,000 square feet, 18 foot deep, and perfect 58 degrees with perfect humidity to, hang up and experiment making salami and sausages. And that's how Cured came about. Is I was making I learned over about a 6-year period of time I taught myself how to make salami and how to make prosciutto hams. And it was all done with almost no proper equipment. And we made the decision to, because we knew that if we had a spot for the Cured shop, which we didn't have, and all of a sudden, the shop right next to the gelato shop that we were leasing out to a gentleman, he came down, with an illness and wanted to retire. And so we just said, okay, we're going to put a shop in. But we were going to put a shop. We bought meat from Peterson's and all the big, the cheese companies. We put a cheese and salami shop in. And we immediately realized that that's what's going to have to happen in the basement, because we brought some of my stuff up, which we shouldn't have. And people loved it.
Yeah.
And that's when.
And you said shouldn't have because you didn't have the proper SD or whatever.
Well, yeah, there was no USDA or no health department, but I mean, it was all great product and such. And we'd been serving it in the restaurants. The restaurant was restaurant product, but nobody knew it was there. It was under the radar.
Okay, got it.
And I knew the quality of it was enough that it would really work, especially in this town, the tourist town. And it was, in 2008, we opened the Cured shop in August of 2008. And in February of 2009, Cured became USDA certified in the basement.
Yeah.
And the following year now, so by the time end of 9, starting at 10, that was when the sausage garden idea came up with the parking lot. We were just going to put a cart out there and sell sausages, because you could park 6 cars in that lot, and that was it. It was, and it's about 3,000 square foot of just prime real estate in downtown
Leavenworth. Park cars or park carts?
Cars.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was a dumpster. And
It's all
everything
blocked
else there.
off now, isn't it? So you
Oh,
can't
it's
park-
all,
yeah.
no. Well, you can't park downtown, but our parking lot and stuff.
Okay.
That's where the whole footprint of it was a big dumpster area, and because it had slopes on it,
Okay.
so it was very ill properly used.
Got it.
Well, we ended up putting the sausage garden there because Randy and I were working. Randy was
That
my
space
chef.
wasn't built in 09. That's a new building.
Oh no, yeah, that was built in 11.
Okay, got it.
So that was just a bad parking lot with a bad garden on it.
Got it.
So Randy, my chef, who came to work in 02, he is probably the most fantastic flavor profile person I ever met. That guy had a palate that was just unbelievable. But he was the guy, him and I did all the recipes for the meat and everything downstairs. He ended up leaving the kitchen up here and going downstairs and becoming, the head of the cured.
Okay.
So the cured shop went off, but it wasn't enough to pay for Randy and I. We couldn't afford to pay for help to come in and help. So we were doing all of it. And it was really wearing us out. And getting that sausage garden going out there we figured okay, get a couple carts out there and just so we could get more business to help pay for some help. And by the time we got through the hoops with the city and the legalities and everything, we had a whole business plan for the garden as it is. And we opened up that in 2011 in October. And that was, again, it was organic. It came out of our cured shop. Cured shop couldn't be what it needed to be in the processing, couldn't process what it needed to be without adding another branch. We had to grow another branch to make it where it was profitable.
Got it. So I want to get into that. I think that is your most profitable in terms of margins, right?
Yeah.
Is like I do think that model is a model that should not necessarily sausage, but doing one thing really well, having a really small menu. Lots of things I like about this, the vertical integration. So you are selling products to yourself, what's that?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what are the benefits of this approach? And I mean, what are the pros? What are the cons?
Well, the pros of it is controlling your product. When you can buy pasture raised pork, from 50 miles away that was butchered by the farm's own, USDA slaughter facility, and have that made into sausage and into salamis and into prosciuttos for that matter, and be able to sell them in our stores and be able to say,
This is a product of here.
that product never left the farm till it came into our place and it was made into the product it is and put to your plate. That was always a huge selling point for us. But it's beyond it allowed us to try to tie ourselves closer to, I've always been a firm believer in farm to table, but Americans are still struggling on trying to get that right. Because farm to table means to be just that, not something that, this isn't knocking the food distributors, but a big corporate company saying this was pasture raised beef, and it goes through
what's the definition of that? Like what?
Exactly,
like, yeah.
Exactly.
So it's greenwashing.
Yeah, it's
nothing wrong with the distribution because the food needs to get from where it's grown to where it's fed, but
don't try to make it something that it's not by
that's marketing.
Words.
Yeah.
The marketing and stuff is
it's weird. Like I'm always saying, I think I used to say marketing is the bane of human existence, and my editor Jared says no, marketing is the bane of your existence. But I do think marketing is the Achilles heel of like humanity. It's our weakness because in that gray area of marketing we can do. It's hard to live in a conscious world if the information that's coming out isn't accurate information or misleading information. And I just think we need to be more, when we think of like the phrase conscious capitalism, I think a lot of the bad things that happen in society live in the realm of marketing, and just, it's no longer persuading, it's misleading.
Yes.
And that's not okay. And that's in that gray area.
Yeah.
But it's all done under the spirit of profitability. And we talked earlier today about the importance of profitability. But conscious capitalism says, what is the thing that matters for you? Like the higher purpose things, the things that make society better, the values we have that serve as filters. Is your business adding value or retracting value from society? Like there needs to be that filter there, and that thing, that profit makes that thing you stand for possible. And that's conscious capitalism. We need to be conscious. And I think we're losing some of that for the sake of profitability right now.
Yeah. And it's so easy because of a lot of the twisting, of nutritional and how we look at it and how they'll take it and they'll pull different, processing foods, super processing foods that, it's really great taking carotene out of carrots. You need the carotene, but people don't realize that for carotene to really work, the rest of the carrot needs to be in your digestive system to get 85% of the use of that carotene. You're only going to get about 5% of the use of the carotene without the rest of that carrot in your digestive system when you do eat it, or you take the pill for it. Now that's a very raw way of stating that that's what processing does. Yeah, you're getting 200% of vitamin C, but only 4% of that 200% is actually going to be usable because your body can't process it because you took away the rest of what needs to be there in that orange, for instance, that's going to help you digest it.
Right. Yeah. We are very close to nature. We are animals.
Yeah.
And we don't fit into machines or processed food. It has to be as close to the original form as possible to get the best out of it. And we sacrifice that quality for quantity and convenience.
Yeah. And that was one of the biggest problems that we had with the cured meat company was in the beginning, as I was learning and Randy, we would try different things and it wouldn't work. Or it would work, we get the flavor profile there, but its color would never stay or so. And all the big boys are getting that very easily and stuff, but that's why you have those 25 letter words in the ingredient list, is because of all of the additives and other things to it. But over time, we learned how to do it with natural and real products. Sometimes it would be, lime powder, to be able to get that acid into there because it'll help preserve and stuff. But yeah, that's getting a little off the subject.
No, I think it's
Eric,
important stuff because our mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform. Yeah. We inspire with the stories. You have an inspiring story. You were bankrupt at one time, and now you're doing over 10 million a year in revenue with I think you said 12, or you're averaging like 12, 10. Let's say, you're averaging 12% profit across all of your concepts, right? That's huge, and not only that, you're empowering with the knowledge you're sharing and the best practices. But the thing that's really important that I pride myself is that we transform with values and community, right? And these values you're sharing you're making impressions on people to choose to do the hard thing because it's the right thing. And I think right now people are prioritizing to do the convenient thing because it's the more profitable thing. And I think that we need to talk about this stuff to create consciousness, because if you're not talking about it, how can you be conscious of it? We need to be aware, right? So I think it's very on point of what the kind of stuff it is I like to talk. So thank you for getting into it. But we do want to teach, people are listening because they want to be empowered. So let's get back into the empowerment of like teaching the how. So what are the things, if you want to do things the hard way, because it will be the right way long term, how do you make that happen? What are the challenges? And how do you overcome those challenges?
What the biggest challenge, I'm going to just use making salami. How do you make salami? Some people think, well, you just do this, this, and this. And yet it is. It's the simplest hard thing I've ever done. But patience, that's
time.
Cured meat. It's nothing but patience and understanding that you have patience in little things. checking on a prosciutto ham that's going to be hanging there for 18 months, and put prosciutto hams in that cooler every 2 weeks on a new group that's going to be there for 18 months, and keep them the paperwork. So that way you're checking on every one of those groups of hams every 2 weeks, and that you don't miss any. It's, and when you do it, it's easy. It sounds like it gets real clear. It doesn't. But when you're making and learning how to make salami, and it's the technique, and I can't tell you how. I can write it down, but until I'm we don't own a grinder. We never have. Everything is cut with a bowl cutter with knives. And so I have to teach you, stand there and teach you, and have you see and take pictures to get that profile and making the temperatures and everything of that salami. Or if you're doing sausage, the temperatures of the sausage when it's being bowl cut. What the minimum temperature is, where you don't want to be colder than that because, it's going to be frozen.
The fat will, yeah.
Yeah, the fat, it changes it. It gets warmer. On sausage, you can go up higher, but on salami, you got to be cold because you're not going to have sharp edges. You're not going to have flat sides, which show you that somebody had cut this. And that gives you those beautiful profiles when you're looking at a piece of salami from the end. Well, when I find people that understand that, kitchen people, those guys are incredible in the kitchen. And then there's others and stuff that don't see it, but they learn it. And those are the salami people. The other ones are great cooks and they're great skilled, people, and they can do a great job at it. But they don't get that last bit very seldom because they want to create. And in making salami, you're creating, but you're duplicating too.
Right. It has to be consistent.
Same every time. And those people and stuff, those are the ones and stuff that get it.
Yeah.
And
is there an analogy here on business? And there's that analogy of that saying, time to go make the sausage, right?
Yep.
And I think there are a lot of parallels with making sausage and scaling and doing things the right way over time, like taking time, consistency, using the right tools, having the right variables in place with the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching it. Yeah.
No, the consistency part, I guess, would be a word that would kind of lead into that, is because
standards is another word that comes to mind.
Standards on how you're doing it, but I learned by going with a small meat company. We scaled it up from by 1,600 square feet, approximately downstairs of that what we call our processing area, to 11,000 in Wenatchee. Huge equipment setups, everything big. Our main aging room is bigger than 1,600 square feet, just the one salami aging room. And COVID hit 4 days after we opened. And we had a big retail and distribution plan and stuff with a couple of suppliers that we were going out, and we had over 75 customers lined up, to get a retail brand going. Well, that all fell apart in the beginning of COVID. And so it was a real struggle that I found that, and it made me remember why I always opened up restaurants organically, where they kind of grew out of one, like Fire. Fire grew out of our meat company. And we knew wood-fired ovens, and we always wanted a wood-fired oven pizzeria. And so it was something that we already knew how to do. It was, pasta and pizza. What better could you do to be a part of Visconti? And the meat company taught me that I wasn't in the retail business. I was in the restaurant business. Yeah. And going into that retail wholesale business was a whole new world. Right. It was food. It was what I made. I mean, we were international. We were winning international gold medals for our products, but that doesn't make you great. All that does is, you're making the great products, and they were working fantastic in our restaurants, but it was a whole new world. And it was, if I was to say, that I was unsuccessful at any business in my life. It wasn't my restaurant in Colfax where I went bankrupt. The restaurant did. The restaurant never lost a nickel. That thing made money every year. It was my investments, and not there again. I got into something that I didn't know how to do.
Right.
In doing what you do not know how to do, even though you think it's like we had the meat company here. We were selling to ourselves, which was a good customer. We were selling to the cured shop, which was a huge customer. And when you get out when now all of a sudden you're trying to do it out to the public, I wasn't in a position to scale it the way I thought it would happen.
Right.
It was it was a blow.
Yeah, and this is 2010, right? 2010, 2015-ish?
Oh, no. This is, right now when I'm talking about the cured meat, 2009, we opened the USDA, and it grew. And then we opened the sausage garden to give it more business. Then it grew. We had a conditional use permit to produce up to 100,000 pounds a year out of the basement. In the last year we were there, which would have been 2019, we did 168,000 pounds, way past our capacity. And it was a nightmare, and that's why we were glad to get down to the big plant. But getting to the big plant with all of the expenses and everything, and thank God the commissary was there to help, cover. And that was the reason why we moved the meat company and the commissary. We needed the commissary because our kitchens were too small, and we needed a bigger meat company. And one of them could not survive by itself. But doing both projects, our return on investment looked right. But the thing I didn't, and Candy will laugh when she overhears this, didn't calculate, because I don't like to admit it, is I didn't understand the complexity of what I didn't know how to do.
You don't know what you don't know.
No. And I went into something that I thought, hey, I sell retail. I got retail customers all over the place. I've got wholesale customers that have been buying. This is going to be a piece of cake. But the logistics of it and the volumes of it and was just so new.
Yeah.
And they don't run like a restaurant.
Yeah. Back to what we discussed earlier, clarity. Not just clarity in what you're doing for food and who you're serving and how you're serving them, but the business you're in. And I don't think that, I am an advocate for vertical integration. And in vertical integration, there are a lot of things that you need to learn. I mean, I'm thinking we're talking about vertically integrating farms. I had Dean and Peeler on the podcast earlier in the year, a beef producer just outside of San Antonio, Texas, and they control everything from selecting the sperm to the actual insemination to birthing the calf, growing the calf. They do their own feed. They produce their own feed. They have their own slaughter. They have their own production facility. So from sperm to production, they control the entire vertical. That's the entire chain, all of it. But Dean and Peeler aren't necessarily experts in all those things. In order to do vertical integration, it is necessary to have partners. You have to you have to orchestrate very intentional, long-term strategic partnerships. And I think it is the way. It's also the hard way, back to the hard way. But I think it's the right way, because in doing that is how you make the biggest impact. For me, the biggest thing out of this conversation we have that I think for me to clarify exactly where we went with the meat company, we struggled for 3 years. Now, as I said, I'm 72 and I wanted to retire. And because of what I was able to do, there's a gentleman named Ted LeBeau. Ted LeBeau has a company called Good Roots, and he works with the people like the folks you were talking about with the ranch. That's his specialty. His company there. What's his name? Ted what?
Ted LeBeau.
I would love to talk to Ted.
And I'd love to get you two together because you would love it. He was our fractional. We hired him as a fractional CFO, and he helped us put together not only organize our the meat company, but reset it. And get me to see the books in a different way.
Not a restaurateur way, but a retailer way.
That's the funny part about it. It brought me back to realizing and stuff that accounting is accounting. And it's just that, in the manufacturing, you don't have a prime cost. You have a cost of sales. We call prime cost, it's your labor, and then it's your
cost of goods.
Cost of goods. And in the production, your cost of goods is all your materials, all your packaging materials, and all your labor that has touched the product while it's being made. Administrative labor is your other labor. That's the stuff that you got to pay for whether you're busy or not. And separating us that, so it's just a little bit different. Instead of a prime cost, it's just got a cost of sales. And, but he also helped us set up, the chart of accounts a little bit like in restaurants, uniform system of accounts for restaurants that restaurantowners.com had put out years and years ago, which we've always followed. A different way of laying that out. But it all came back to the same thing. It's the same basics that I just got lost in thinking there was a difference, that it was different. And it really isn't. But you have to see the cost a little differently.
Yeah.
But
small nuances, but make a big difference. Yeah,
small nuances. But there again, like with what you were talking about, with the beef again, Pure Country, a pork producer that we use, they raise and process about 400 plus heads of pigs a day, and they've got a large beef operation now, and they do exactly the same. They have their own slaughter facility. They don't do further processing, and so we did a huge amount of that for them. We're in a business, and Cured by Carne Vita, the company that has purchased my meat company now, is still doing the same with them. Plus, they have their own ranches and farms elsewhere that they're bringing product in. But getting back to what you were talking about is, I got into something I didn't know. And the only thing I would love anybody to get, if they ever hear this podcast, is that if you are in fine dining and you want to go into cupcakes, or you see this little fast food thing, don't do it without professional, knowledgeable, but mostly experienced people in that genre. You have to have that help. They don't have to be around for long. They can be, it's like Ted. Ted gave us, we already had everything. All of you restaurateurs have already learned all of this. All it is stepping back and allowing somebody to take all of your widgets you have on the table that make your restaurant and your systems work and rearrange them for you to see it in a different light. And that's what Ted did for us.
Yeah.
But, and it's, I'm now retired.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And I'm really happy about it. But I can't stay away from the meat company. I'm still going in there at least once, twice a week and stuff, working with the guys teaching. So
yeah, and I want to talk about that now that you are retired. You've passed the baton to Candy's daughter,
yep.
Dawn.
Yeah, my stepdaughter. Yep.
I was hoping to get. I don't know. Maybe there's still hope that we might be able to pull it off. I'm here for like another 24 hours.
Yeah.
And she's very busy hosting the Restaurant Systems Pro Mastermind Elite program right now. Speaking of which, you alluded to Restaurant Systems Pro earlier in the conversation about, you got this book on how to figure out prime costs and how to calculate profit and all that stuff, and costing your menu. Take me through the evolution of your systems and your technology and where you are today. And when did you guys onboard Restaurant Systems Pro?
The very first time we met, first on the books is, I knew the book was the only thing that I'd ever come across. And I used that just.
And that was in the early 90s.
That was actually in the 80s.
Okay.
I found that when I was in Colfax.
And that's how you were doing it up until
I never really had anything put together. I came across Chef Tech from a recipe program that I was working with a little bit before we came across
Restaurant Systems.
And then at that time it was called
the
Smart
Expert.
Systems
with
Smart Systems Pro. I went to In fact, restaurantowners.com in 2005 had a contest. You sign up for your email to get their weekly stuff on their, from their email. Your name got dropped into a deal for a free trip to, or it wasn't a free trip, but it was free entry to David Scott Peters and the Soup to Nuts with the restaurant experts. And it just had everything that kind of like what RSP is, but in those days it was in spreadsheets, and it was a 4-day program in Las Vegas. Well, I won. And I truly thought I was probably, everybody won. They just trying to get people to go to the seminar. Yeah. But my mom and dad lived in Vegas and Candy, and I thought, well, hey, let's go down. And that
everyone got out of the Midwest, huh?
Yes, that was the thing that just that started it for us.
And this is 2005.
2005.
And they weren't a software at this point.
No, this is, in fact, we were one of the restaurants that hounded them. We got to get this. You got this and this, and you got to take numbers out of here. Get together a small program and stuff, just so the stuff could talk to each other and make it a little bit easier. Flow.
So restaurant systems, or a restaurant, what was it originally? Not
it was called Smart Systems Pro.
Smart Systems Pro was a series of, what were they? Spreadsheets?
Oh yeah, spreadsheets. And you had, the program was, it was a restaurant operations from soup to nuts, and it was for 4 days. And you started out right from the very beginning, and
what were the elements?
If I remember right, you went in right starting from the books, they taught you about.
That microphone's giving you a challenge today, isn't it?
My hands are
You're
giving
Italian
me a
or
challenge. Well, not really, but I'm a convert.
Honorary.
As the Pope will tell you, the best Catholics are converts. Yeah.
So bring it back to the soup to the nuts. Like, what in 2005? What were the different systems they were teaching you? The whole, like, what was included in soup to nuts?
The best one that came out of it was our purchase allotment, and which would tell you that you had it figured out. It was a spreadsheet, and you would enter your sales for the month, by day. Use last year's forecast. And then there you say it was 25% for your food costs to keep it easy. And your sales were $1,000. Well, for that day, you'd put over it, and that would be your budget of what you're going to buy for that day.
So it's purchase allotment, budget. What else did they teach you?
Then after the budget and stuff, once you had that and stuff, then it would, in the purchase allotment was my guys, like at the Sausage Garden, it was the one thing that Steve learned, and he was the first one to pick it up, is that told you what he could buy. And he followed that to the rule, and still does today. Of all the things, he's probably the only person that uses the purchase allotment in RSP anymore. But it was one of the things when we, in 2005, that was before the Sausage Garden was even available then. But Steve was working here in the restaurants with Randy, and I'm trying to think each day, but you went over scheduling. They went over to the reverse labor and how it worked. And those are things that I'd never seen before. But the purchase allotment was really cool, because as you went through the week and you put yesterday's sales in and replaced on the spreadsheet what you had guessed, your estimate or your budget sales, and then what you really paid for invoices would be put in there also. And so it would give you a running, and then it was tied to 3 weeks before. And so you had a food cost of where you were at. I'm sitting on my hands now.
No,
and
you're fine.
And so it was things that it closed gaps on, well, you have this, but it was too hard to keep track of. But now all of a sudden you had spreadsheets that you could start tracking things. And the reverse labor, where it could tell you where you were. And it was Sunday night, the end of the week, and you just finished your labor. You could put it on the 7 days so you can look and see how you were. But it was giving you a quasi budget variance like we now have in in RSP that you can look at any day. But at the end of each week, you can look at, and your prime cost, your labor, everything is going to be within 0.5% of what it's really going to end up at the end of the month, the end of the year, for that period of time that you're looking at. And that gave us that forward thinking that a CPA works with history, a CMA or a CFO works with the future, and they use history
Projections
as to do projections. And that is the biggest thing that came out of RSP for me in the beginning, back when it was soup to nuts.
Got it. And also inventory too, right? That's
Inventory. I was an inventory guy from the book from WSU, costing for restaurants.
Yeah.
That's the one that taught me, because there he expounded weekly inventories.
Yeah.
And everybody thought I was nuts that came to work for me, because I did inventory every week.
So this program, the soup to nuts, that was basically spreadsheets, individual spreadsheets,
all spreadsheets
that spit out numbers, but they didn't push information to each other to like do
the
streamline process. Not at all. But that's where Restaurant Systems Pro is today, as a software as a service,
right?
Or service as a software. I always get it backwards. I never remember which one it is. But I was talking to Fred, Restaurant Systems Pro, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, repeat guest on the show, talking about relationships, right? I'm not good in the numbers. I'm not a numbers person. Mm-hmm. Never have been, never will be. I love the human side of things, human nature, psychology, the history of us, getting into figuring out how do we tick and what is optimal. And that's the stuff that I love, is how do we create the environment for people to thrive. When it comes to numbers, like, my eyes cross. And Fred, in this partnership with Restaurant Systems Pro and within Restaurant Unstoppable Network, I'm leaning a lot on Fred to be my guy. Fred is the guy.
Yeah.
And I know Fred doesn't like it when I tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it's kind of funny. David Scott Peters was the pimp. He was the guy out there selling the systems. Fred was the hoe, and these are David Scott Peters' words. Fred was the guy that did the work. And he spent so much of his career going into these restaurants and helping them. I call him the P&L whisperer. He's so good at it.
Oh, he is.
And he's among the best at it. And being able to work with him and give access to him twice a month for an hour, we do a P&L power hour where you just show up and you show your P&L, and he will go through and he will help you move the needle. He'll give you homework for the next 2 weeks. Did you do it? Yes or no? Why or why not? We'll help you tackle those barriers, those roadblocks that are in your way.
If I'm going to be candid, since RSP, one of the faults, it's not a fault, and one of the outcomes of all of the automated software is giving us the numbers, but it's taken that out of it to where it gives you the answers.
But you don't know how it got there.
A lot of people don't know how. You know how it got there because you used to do it by hand.
Yes.
But your new people don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what the nuances of why that's
how
important.
To get there.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm happy you said that because that leads into what I was going to share. So one of the things in talking with Fred in trying to figure out how do we partner, back to this idea of partnerships and going further together and surrounding yourself with the right people. You're talking about, like, if you're taking over a business, you need to have the person that does the thing there to teach you how to do the thing and to train and create the systems around it. Talking to Fred recently, it's like, Fred, what was Restaurant Systems Pro before it was Restaurant Systems Pro? And it was the Restaurant Expert Pro, or Restaurant
Expert, yeah. And it was Smart Systems Pro.
And Smart Systems Pro was the longhand, how to do it: purchasement allotment, budgeting, scheduling, reverse labor, food costing, inventory. And this year, Fred and I are working on creating our own soup to nuts rendition, where, like, he is going to teach me and give us Restaurant Unstoppable all the assets to be able to do what Restaurant Systems Pro does without the software. Because we know that if you make it about helping people where they're at and helping them understand the process and getting them to the point where they're ready for the next step in their evolution, the software, it's a stepping stone to get there. Because for a lot of people, it's overwhelming because they don't understand how the numbers get there. The onboarding process is hard.
Okay. I've always been kind of a techie guy. You know, what's new and what's like automated, being able to come in and have my point of sale is downloaded into my bookkeeping. So it's already there. You know, all I got to do is put my deposits in. I was always into that type of stuff. But in 2005, if I would have gone into soup to nuts and it was a software program, I would have not been interested because I already had Chef Tech and it already had recipes.
But you need
this doesn't have recipes. You know, I mean, that was, you know, I already got Chef Tech. I don't need this bookkeeping stuff. Was kind of how Candy and I were when we first went to it. But by the time we got done, it was like, you know, yeah, we got the accountants, but wow, we could see our books before 30 to 45 days after the month's over. You know, that would be kind of cool, even if it was just close. So it got us thinking. And so when we went home, we started using the spreadsheets. We started using all of, and it was wonderful. In 2008 came along. In 2008 in Leavenworth, in this restaurant, it was on the end of June. We hadn't really felt the economy crash yet. You know, we were late. And we were up just a tiny bit over 20% in this restaurant. And at the end of 2008, this restaurant was down for the whole year, 22%.
Damn.
It hit us that hard. Now, in that time, as I was saying, we got into the wine industry and became very big in the wine industry. And that big old basement downstairs had 500-600 cases of wines, of back wines that we've been buying and building our wine program for both the restaurants. We were getting our awards in the Wine Spectator and everything was going great. And the only thing we can say good about that, because we were making enough money because of what we learned from David and Fred in the soup to nuts, was all of a sudden we weren't making money anymore and we were losing money. And the way we made it through was we just happened to have an inventory of irreplaceable wines. About a third of our wines that we owned were last bottles out there. And so we went into, you could come into here and you could buy a bottle of Barolo at your table for everything you bought at your table. We had retail prices that you could, because we had retail license, take home. We had people coming in here and buying 3 bottles of wine for dinner so they could take 3 home for their collection. And we sold off, we went from about 600 and just under 700 bottles of wine on the wine list down to 250. And I had a vow that I'm going to get that back up there after the economy straightens out and everything. And we've never gone over 300. And nobody has ever asked us what happened to your big wine list. They still just say, wow, you got a big wine list. And so it's kind of, when you get into something, how you kind of just get going. And that's just a little story to, tell you how we were able to do that with RSP. And we didn't really, and of course we didn't follow their thing. Well, you only need this much inventory of alcohol.
Right. So we were able to do that because of RSP, specifically that being fill in the blank.
Well, because part of what we were an Italian restaurant in a new Italian restaurant, really for our marketplace. And we found that building the wine list, and we had the .com living in Seattle and coming over and buying homes here. And we became the wine restaurant, of Leavenworth. And we were the place you could come and get that bottle of wine for a special occasion. And we built off of that.
But you didn't necessarily need it. And your money was on the shelves.
The money was on the shelves. And the one thing about wine, it's not like beer, the kegs go bad in 6 months. That wine that we were buying and stuff was also going into a 58-degree basement if it wasn't on the shelves up here. And that's refrigerated. Behind that wall is a refrigerated room.
Yeah.
Where all of the higher end ready to be served bottles are. And so for us, it was like a piggy bank, but we never did it that way. We didn't do it on purpose. It just was there. And we were able to build our legacy in the wine industry by, in a quasi, RSP made that possible by making us profitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after
you were
08.
able to take that profit and invest it in assets.
But
And that's the goal is.
Yeah, early 09 though, in May of 09, that was not there anymore.
Lifesaver. Though.
And I called David Scott Peters, and because I'd seen an ad for Soup to Nuts, and I talked to him about seeing if I could come down again. And even I think it was $700 for the 2 seats. I mean, that really wasn't in the market for that, because you got to fly down and the cost.
Yeah,
but
hotel.
He goes, well, tell you what, we got this group called the Winner's Circle. The elite group, and then the Winner's Circle was the smaller group. Kind of like you get into them, then you get into elite. And it was $100. I think it was $100 a month. It was $600 a year, but we could pay $100 a month. And I could afford that. And the thing was, if you were a member of the Winner's Circle, you had to guarantee six months, as a member. Yes, you got into Winner's Circles, and elite got into Soup to Nuts for free.
Yeah.
So that's how we went.
Yeah. And
that got me back in.
And in full transparency, Fred wanted to pursue the world of software, and David Scott Peters wanted to do the world of public speaking and coaching, because that's what he loves, and they went their own way. And I'm leaning on Fred to be. They're
incredible.
That for me,
They're both still incredible at what they do.
Yeah.
And David Scott Peters is probably one of the most inspirational restaurant coaches
Speaker
that I've ever talked to.
He has his own podcast. Check it out.
Yeah. Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I listen to him all. In fact, I speak to him 3-4 times a year.
I love that.
And I really love the guy. And, but Restaurant Systems Pro is what, we were a guinea pig for a lot of it. Hey, we need to test this. We need to test that. And, Dawn will tell you of all the days she was stressed out because Dan agreed to do this. But it was all such a good learning curve, and it really helped us grow as a business.
Yeah. And if you want to be a part, to your point, we're doing something similar with Restaurant Unstoppable Network. Are You Live? Specifically, when you sign up for Restaurant Unstoppable Live, you get access to all these live events and the archive of the content, the resources that I'm building with Fred. So, and you're supporting this podcast and my mission to be able to share stories of people like you in person. And there's no way I could do what we're doing right now over Zoom. It's just not the same magic, man.
Yeah.
So head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live. Selfish plug right here. We need your support, and thank you very much. It's $47 a month. That's unheard of. And that's my mission, to get this access available to anybody, regardless of where you are, what your privilege is. This information, I think if it's information, if it's knowledge, it should be accessible. Yeah. So you just mentioned Dawn. I think I just want to talk about Dawn real quick. And like you mentioned, you are now retired. Dawn is, what's her title? The president, CEO?
No, she's Chief Operating Officer of Visconti's Hospitality Group.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure that we're talking a step of her beginning to take over ownership. And that's all things that it's a lot harder when you've always we just go to work.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we have to take care of, the papers and making sure that it's going to be the best for everybody, and that, that is fair. And that's where we got to get to now, because when she came back in 2013, she, she's got a hell of a, resume of restaurants and restaurateurs that she's worked for and worked at.
Tom Colicchio.
She never worked for Tom, but she became a friend of Tom's through the Babo, and, the Bastianiches, Mario Battalion, those are the people that she was working
in New York. She was in Las Vegas for a little bit.
Las Vegas, and she was also in Miami, was where she got her first out of Seattle, the El Gaucho group. And then she worked at Columbia Tower, Asagio's, Tulio's, the fine hotel there, or places, different places that she worked in. We were never hard alcohol, and that's how we drug her home. Yeah. Is that she says, well, if you put a bar in Wenatchee, I'll come home. So we did.
And here she is. And we're hoping to talk to her. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it happen on this trip, but I would love to hear her story. But I mean, in terms of passing the baton, and you're going through that now, any advice, or this is like going into sixth gear now, where you're at. You're about to get into sixth gear retirement, and you want to continue the legacy. What do we need to know about that?
Part of it is that I'm finding and stuff that I can't turn the baton over to Dawn. Candy and I together have to turn it over, I think, is what's going to be not the easiest, but the smartest way.
So what's
to
the
do
difference between you turning it over and Candy and you turning it
Well,
over?
so that way we're always on the same page, so that I see things. Candy and I, when we did our core values, Fred and David were sitting right here. I would almost talked about it last night. Right where Fred was sitting was where he was sitting when we were doing this. And we spent a full day. David had a project thing of just list of words and with questions, and there was words underneath. We'd select the words, and Candy and I would do it, and Candy would do it. And it took us a full day to get it all done. And what it was just narrowing down how we thought and what we were looking for to build our core values. And we each wrote our core values, and then David went through it. What the problem was, our core values were just identical, but we never could agree on them because we're using different language.
Yes.
And that was one of the, our core values are exactly what they were on what was written that day. And that would have been,
2009, 10, 11?
Oh, probably, I think 12,
Okay.
right around there. A couple years before we sponsored the restaurant group for the first time in 2015. But that was, and that was the thing that gave Candy and I the ground when we could sit there. And we even had one manager, Melanie, her answer was she'd be going through, and someone says, this place is dead. Why don't we close? And she goes, read the core values and come back and talk to me about it. I mean, that was her response for almost anything when they questioned how Candy and I
every
wanted
decision.
It was just there. Did it fit?
What was the core value that would prevent you from closing?
The hospitality and the reliability of our customers being able to find. We've never had anywhere in our marketing or in our websites, we don't close. We stop service. We stop seating.
Yeah.
We stopped seating. It was at 10 o'clock. We stopped seating at 10 o'clock. And the unwritten one in the restaurants was we really stopped seating when that last meal that got in at before 10, when that was coming out of the kitchen, because the kitchen was still set up. If somebody came in during that cooking, it got cooked too.
Yeah.
It was just
a little extra buffer there.
It was in the beginning, we needed that and stuff just to, and it really helped us build our trade. But
Got it.
that has changed a lot in this industry now, because when we opened up here, we were open till 1 a.m. And then after we were no longer part of the pub anymore for the brewery, we were just the Italian restaurant. Then we started closing at, midnight and then 11. And now, man, it's hard to push it past 10 o'clock. People are in bed.
You're open. Or you open later, or you don't open until 3, whereas it used to be for lunch too, right?
We were open for lunch, and in fact, we're doing more volume now from 3 to close.
Yeah.
Than we were, annual volume than we were with the lunch.
Yeah. So back to this idea of working with Candy to pass the baton.
Okay. It's so that way with the yes, sorry for getting off on that tangent.
I love the tangents.
With the core values is I want to make sure that we see everything eye to eye, because what David taught us, when we're doing the core values, is that we speak differently and we say the same thing, but with different language a lot of times. And just making sure that what I'm saying is exactly how she correlates it too. It's just making sure is that I don't tell Don, this is what we're going to do, without Candy, this is what I'm telling Don we're going to do.
Yeah.
Because I want to try to be there, because, and we've learned that, we've stubbed our toes on that, now and again. And it's over the last year, it's really gotten really well, especially since I've started stepping back. I see something happen, it's no longer Dawn saying, well, wait a minute, I got this, don't worry about it. We're able to say, hey, Dawn, I'm seeing this. And she knows I'm not questioning what she's doing. She goes, well, you think I could do it another way? And so there's this camaraderie of this changeover.
Yeah. I did an episode on succession plans. The name of the individual is escaping me right now. But do you have a succession plan? Are you working with anybody?
We're working on it right now. With we've all the time. Finances have always been us.
Yeah.
And we're now to the point and stuff in our lives where we're not servicing debt. Everything's on a growth spurt. We own all of our properties. There's no payments. And the Miller Street property, we've got good tenants there. Things are working well for us. And so now we're starting to put together successions. We're redoing wills. I mean, it's a whole lot.
Yeah. I think your staff is trying to tell us something. We've been recording too long. No, it's a joke. I think
no music yet.
But we're about ready to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I think you just got your last thought out there.
Yeah. So the succession plan and stuff and it's been hard for us to get to it, and because it's something that Candy and I are just now realizing and stuff that we're not stepping away from these restaurants. A couple of years ago and stuff, I wanted to just package them all up and let's sell them and, put our nest egg away and just take care of everything and let Dawn go. And this is working differently, but it's so much better this way. And Dawn will be able to decide what she wants to do and how she wants to do it and do it in a way that's not going to encumber her. And so that way I don't ever want to see a hardship for the restaurants or for her owning the restaurants, as she chooses to move into it. We want to make it that absolute. We don't want the public to even have to see this.
Right. Is there anything we haven't discussed today, Dan, that you were hoping would come out of today's conversation?
No. For me, being able to retirement doesn't mean I'm stopping working. Retirement means I'm not on a schedule. I'm not writing checks. I'm not scheduling any. I'm not hiring or firing. I'm just being the owner of the business, along with Candy, and just working with helping Dawn in every way we can. We're doing a remodel of Fire and Ice over this next year. We're going to be doing for the first time only, we're going to do a change in the sausage garden, take away the pellet grill that we use for our sausage and going to a different, style of cooking method that you can't tell the difference, but it's a little more efficient for the building. And we're going to possibly put French fries in out there, which is something that we've always wanted to do, but with this new equipment, it's going to fit.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing I like to get out of my guests before we wrap up is, who do you respect and admire? Somebody, a restaurateur. You already mentioned one name, Ted LeBeau.
Yeah.
I'd love to connect with him. But in terms of restaurant owners and operators, people doing amazing work, people that deserve to be made an example of, that have things to share to make the industry a better place, whether that be inspired or empowered, who was that? Who comes to mind as I say that?
Well, back in the days when he was really involved before he Shake Shacks got going, Danny Myers.
Yeah.
Because of his just unlimited hospitality. Even though he's a TV personality and such, but the passion for the food was Gordon Ramsay. And he's not anybody I've ever met or anything. I love his restaurants and such. And but there's how he sees things, and not in his blusterous TV persona.
Yeah, I think his publicist came down on him and said it's time to change the tone. I don't think America likes the angry chef anymore.
Yeah, and
he's gotten a little softer.
Well, he's those are ones and stuff with the hospitality. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name, Mitchell, out of Ohio.
Cameron Mitchell?
Yes.
I've had Cameron on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to reconnect.
What was the question?
Cameron Mitchell, I've had him on the show.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I'd love to get the reconnect with him. All right, Danny Myers, Gordon Ramsay, and Cameron Mitchell setting the bar real high for me. Look out, guys. I'd love to get you on the show. And how can we connect with you if we really enjoyed your story today? Maybe we want to come work for you.
Dan Carr at Viscontis.com.
Dan, thank you so much, man, for taking the time out of this busy week. You know, we had the Restaurant Elite program going on right now, the Restaurant Systems Pro Elite program going on right now. You carved out time to sit with me for over 2 hours to share your story and to empower our listeners. And I can't do what I do without people like you being willing to do that. So thank you so much, man. There is no question you are unstoppable.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And I love your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.